All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a virus so powerful it can bring entire economies to their knees. Now, it doesn't harm humans, but it can empty supermarket shelves and cost billions. This is the story of foot and mouth disease, a threat that's as old as farming itself. Let's get right into it.
So, let's just start with a number, okay? $12.3 billion. That's the estimated cost of a single outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the UK back in 2001. And that's not just about the lost livestock. We're talking tourism grinding to a halt, farming communities absolutely devastated. It's a pretty stark reminder that in our connected world, a tiny virus can be just as destructive as any major natural disaster. Okay, so how on earth can one disease cause that much chaos? To really get it, we need to understand what we're up against. Let's break down what FMD actually is. At its core, foot and mouth disease, or FMD, is this incredibly contagious virus. It targets animals with cloven hooves, split hooves. So we're talking about our most common livestock: cows, pigs, sheep, and goats. Now, it's not a threat to people, but for these animals, it spreads like wildfire. In fact, it's one of the most infectious animal diseases on the entire planet. And look, this is not some new fight. We've been wrestling with this thing for centuries. But a real game changer came in 1897 when scientists finally discovered it was caused by a virus, the very first animal virus ever identified. That changed everything. And yet, as you can see from the massive outbreaks in Taiwan and the UK, even with all our modern science, this ancient enemy is still a formidable threat.
So why is this virus so incredibly difficult to stop? Well, the answer is all in its biology. Let's take a closer look at what makes the foot and mouth virus so good at what it does.
The culprit here is FMDV, and it's an RNA virus. Now, just to put that into perspective, think of DNA as this super stable, carefully proofread instruction manual. RNA, it's more like a quick memo scribbled on a napkin. It makes a ton of mistakes when it copies itself, which means it's constantly mutating. It's like you're trying to fight an enemy that changes its disguise every 5 minutes.
And here's where it gets really, really tricky. FMD isn't just one single virus. It's actually a family of 7 distinct types, or what we call serotypes. The best way to think about it is like 7 different cousins. They all cause the same disease, but they're just different enough that immunity to one, whether it's from a vaccine or a previous infection, it doesn't protect an animal from the others. You can see how that's a massive headache for developing vaccines.
So how does this thing move so ridiculously fast? Well, it's got a whole arsenal of ways to travel. We're talking direct animal-to-animal contact, sure. But it can also become airborne, literally traveling on the wind in an infected animal's breath. It could be in contaminated feed, and this is a big one. It can hitch a ride on things, what we call fomites. Think about a farmer's boots, the tires of a truck, even farm equipment.
Okay, so once an animal breathes this virus in, it immediately sets up shop in the back of the throat, the pharynx, and just starts multiplying like crazy. From there, it basically hijacks the bloodstream and goes on a tour of the entire body, causing these awful, painful blisters in its 2 favorite spots, the mouth and the feet.
All right, so what does this actually look like for a farmer out in the field? How would they even spot it? Well, you'd be surprised because the signs can look really different depending on which animal you're looking at.
And this table right here, this shows one of the biggest challenges in a nutshell. With cattle, it's often super dramatic. You'll see a high fever, ropes of saliva, and those really nasty blisters. With pigs, it's often all about their feet. They become incredibly lame. But then you get to sheep and goats, and the signs can be so subtle you might miss them completely.
And that is the absolute kicker, right? This quote says it all. Because the disease is so mild in sheep and goats, they become these perfect silent spreaders. You could have an entire flock of sheep that looks perfectly healthy, but they're shedding virus everywhere they go, starting new fires all over the place. It makes catching an outbreak early, well, pretty much impossible. So because you can't always trust the physical signs, you have to go to the lab to be 100% sure. There are a few ways to do it. An ELISA test is kind of like looking for the virus's team jersey. It detects the specific proteins. Then you have RT-PCR, which is way more precise. It's like doing genetic fingerprinting to find its exact RNA code. The gold standard, though, that's actually growing the live virus in a lab. It takes longer, but it's totally foolproof.
Okay, so you've got a confirmed case. The lab calls. The clock is now ticking, and every single second counts. So how in the world do authorities respond to a biological fire that's already burning?
I mean, that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you fight a virus that can literally travel on the wind and can hide out in an animal that looks totally fine? It forces a response that has to be fast, coordinated, and honestly pretty drastic. Any delay just lets the fire spread.
The playbook for an FMD outbreak really boils down to these 4 pillars. First, you create a fortress. That means strict movement controls, nothing in, nothing out. Then you have intense biosecurity, disinfecting everything from boots to trucks. And then you hit the really tough decisions, vaccination and, in many cases, slaughtering infected animals and those they've been in contact with.
And this right here, this is the heart of the debate in any FMD crisis. Do you stamp it out or do you vaccinate? The slaughter policy is, well, it's brutal, but it's fast. It gets the virus out of the area quickly, which is absolutely critical for getting back your FMD-free status so you can trade internationally again. Vaccination, on the other hand, can slow things down, but it's messy, it's hard to tell a vaccinated animal from an infected one, and it might not even stop them from becoming carriers. It's this massive, agonizing trade-off. And that brings us right back to this carrier state problem, which is honestly the ghost in the machine when it comes to FMD control. See, even after an animal gets better, even if it was vaccinated, it can still have live virus hiding out in the back of its throat. Now, pigs, they clear it out. But cattle, sheep, goats, they can carry that live virus for months, sometimes even years. They become these hidden time bombs, just waiting to start the whole nightmare all over again.
So, when you put it all together, foot and mouth disease is so much more than just a sickness in animals. It's a direct threat to our global food security and our economy. In a world where people and products are constantly zipping across the globe, a virus like this can travel just as easily. So the question we have to ask ourselves isn't if the next big outbreak will happen, it's when. And are we really ready for it?